Hello, good evening, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How is everybody tonight? Hope you're all well. Hope you're having a good week. So then, we are going to be delving back into those crypts as we explore the next book in the Best Left Buried series. Tonight we are taking a look at the Doomsayer'S Guide to Horror from Soul Muppet Publishing. Our thanks to Soul Muppet Publishing for providing the books this week for us to explore. I bumped into them at the UK Games Expo this past June, and that was one of the great things about the UK Games Expo, is being able to meet up with some of the independent designers and smaller publishers. And this was one of the gems that I found, so I'm delighted to be able to share it with you this evening. Of course, as ever, I always preface these shows with the fact of that I played RPGs back in my college days, so it's been a while since I was round the table with my friends playing D&D, but for this past year or so I've been re-exploring all of the many games that are now available. So many different genres. It's not just a case of fantasy, elves and dwarves and goblins. So if you do have any questions, please do leave them in the chat. I will do my best to answer them for you. Alright, let's go to the table and check out this next book. So, for those of you who were with us last night, we took a look through the Cryptdiggers Guide to Survival. This is the player's facing book. This is everything you need to be able to play the game. So we'll put a little mark in the top of the video. Go and check out that one from last night. Tomorrow we are going to be looking at the Hunter's Guide to Monsters. I'm very excited about this one because who doesn't like a good monster, hey? And this book is promising all many different kinds. But this evening, as I say, we are going to be taking a look at the Doomsayer'S Guide to Horror. Let's take a look on the back. Okay, so here we go. Best Left Buried Deeper is a rules-light fantasy horror role-playing game where the monsters are scary and you are scared. Players are Cryptdiggers, professional dungeon divers who venture into monster-infested crypts seeking riches. Survivors might find themselves richer, but will be changed by their experience. They are often broken, beaten, and diminished, as ruined as the crypts themselves. The Doomsayer guides them on this journey, a referee who creates the threatening environments, cryptic puzzles, and terrifying monsters the Cryptdiggers face. This Doomsayer-facing book contains guidelines and procedures for running games, including advice for creating dungeons and a toolbox of alternate rules. It also includes the 13 Duchies of Lendal's Doomsayer-facing lore and a starting hexcrawl adventure, the Lowlands of Internment. So, there we go, that is the setting. Good evening, Lee! Thank you for joining us tonight. Would you or are you considering getting back into playing TTRPGs again? And you missed out on last night's, but you'll check it out later. Lee, don't get me wrong, I do play now. It's just, I'm not somebody who has been playing constantly from their college days. In fact, I've spent a lot of time previously playing lots of board games, painting lots of miniatures, playing lots of video games. So I'm very aware of course, a lot of role-playing games in different mediums. But yeah, getting around the table, I started with Dungeons and Dragons like maybe most people of my age. And of course, coming back to it now, there's so much more available than D&D, and that's been kind of the mission of the channel, to basically go out and explore all the other kinds of games that are available. And, you know, I'm really enjoying this journey. And you will find many of those videos of what I have looked at over this past, gosh, it must be a good year and a half, as I've been, you know, discovering what's available out there on the market. So go and check them out. Go and maybe follow the channel. I believe that's what you say on YouTube, isn't it? Go and like and subscribe. I am so bad at self-promotion. Okay, let's get started. What I'm going to do is, on the books, there is a link to the books in the video description. You can get the book and a PDF. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the PDF version, just because it's a little easier on my eyes as far as being able to see. Let's just put these here. Similar experience to me, but mine's a lot more recent. I only got into TTRPGs a few years ago, but loving lighter rule sets. Ah, right, then you definitely want to check out the video from last night, because this very much is a rules light based game. Quite simply, you're after a score of 9 on the check. You're going to use, you've got 3 abilities, brawn, wit. I'm going to have to check now. Oh no, oh no. You see, you put me on the spot. Brawn, wit, and will. I knew it was another W. And essentially, you get to place, when you're doing your character creation, you've got a +2, a +1, and a 0. So it's up to you how you allocate that into your attributes. You roll 2 dice. Add whatever attribute value you've got. If you have over 9, you have succeeded. It is then up to the Doomsayer. If the particular test is easy, you could roll 3 dice and you keep the highest 2. If the test is particularly difficult, then again you roll 3 dice, but you've got to lose 1 die that has the highest result. And that's basically it. Right? But go and check out last night's video, of course after tonight's show, and take a look. Okay, let's jump on in. And good evening, Roland. You and me both. Is that in essence to getting back into RPGs, or having bad eyesight? Okay, here we go then. This was something that I was quite happy about. Just looking at the artwork, is there are gunpowder weapons in this. I think this is possibly the first game that we've looked at that does have that element. So I was quite excited about that. We have, of course, credits. Lots of people get together to put games together, and we always like to give them their dues. So, writing credit to Zachary Cox and Nicholas Spence, and artwork is by Ben Brown. Just before we get started, Lee's saying the books look great. I'm off to kickboxing, but I'll watch this later. Okay, highly recommend also Cairn, Liminal Horror, and Monolith, all based on Into the Odd. Ah, yes, we looked at Into the Odd a couple of shows ago. Really enjoyed the look of that. It's very strange. Some might say it's odd, but yes, okay, cool. And Roland saying almost everything at this point. And good evening, Roger. Okay, so we're going to get started. And again, because we've already looked at the first book, some of this introduction is a bit of a repeat, because it's, built on the fact of you might have not looked at the first book, but our table of contents is different. So we're going to have our introduction, and a chapter on running the game, talking about the crypt, rewards and treasure, the camp, a toolbox of rules, and then the low hills of internment, and the worlds of the crypt. Okay. So as we described last night, we already looked at the Cryptdiggers Guide to Survival, which is a player-facing book containing everything you need to play, including character creation, core mechanics, equipment lists, and a short chapter on monsters. If you didn't check out that video, go and take a look at later on. We are tonight, of course, looking at the Doomsayer'S Guide to Horror. But then tomorrow evening, we're going to look at the Hunter's Guide to Monsters, a Doomsayer-facing book containing guidelines and procedures for creating and using monsters, including monster mythology, monster templates, and a sizable bestiary. Also contains new adaptations and rules for creating monstrous treasures from monster corpses. I'm still liking the idea of monstrous treasures from monster corpses. That's a little bit, you know, like Monster Hunter, isn't it? Maybe doing some crafting, but getting the treasure from the felled beast. We'll see, we'll see. Okay. Again, we have a warning that Best Left Buried has mature themes and contains the following content warnings: violence, mental illness, death, injury, trauma, ableism, mutilation, body horror, cannibalism, blood, addiction, and drug use. And of course, as we always sort of discuss on playing games, games are meant to be fun for everybody around the table. So if it's the first time that your players might be playing Best Left Buried, it's up to the Doomsayer to let them know the type of content that they are potentially going to face. And, of course, you know, altering it to suit the requirements of the table. Nobody wants to feel that things are going a little bit in a direction that they're not comfortable with. But once you've got a rough idea, again, it is a horror-based game, so they'll probably want to be scared a little bit, but let's not take it too far. That's why all of my games will have 0 spiders. I do not like games with spiders, and, you know, I'll be the first one to say that. Okay, so here we go, running the game. So here lie the tools and tricks the Doomsayer uses to kill you. So if you're a player, go back to safer waters. If you're a Doomsayer, have fun and continue. Nice, I like it. Of course, that's the whole point, isn't it? As a player, you don't want to learn the tricks that the Doomsayer is going to have. You want to enjoy them as they are revealed as you are creeping your way through one of these dark crypts. So this wouldn't necessarily be the book that you would be reading as a player. Okay, so this first sort of chapter about running the game, it's a lot of guidance for the Doomsayer as far as the things they might want to consider when putting their game together. And I like this because it's useful information and a useful sort of discussion for new Doomsayers. Which I guess I would probably consider myself part of that. So it's good that the book is talking to me and explaining to me, well, okay, what do you want to achieve and how are you going to achieve it? So fun is in Best Left Buried. While Best Left Buried is a horror game, fun and terror are equally high priorities. So talking a little bit about making sure your players are comfortable. One player might enjoy seeing and defeating terrifying monsters, while another likes rolling dice with friends, snacks and drinks. So when play begins, describe everything in horrifyingly vivid detail. Talk about sights, smells, sounds, how the air tastes, even textures. Give NPCs unusual voices. Your players might laugh at the campiness and you might be a bit rubbish, but you'll get better and eventually they'll join in. Hopefully so. Hopefully so. During combat, keep everything moving rapidly. Get the adrenaline pumping. Encourage more interesting narration than I hit with my sword for 5 damage by granting the upper hand for particularly exciting or dramatic described attacks. I like that. That's good. Again, I get the feeling that Best Left Buried leans more towards the OSR style of play, and that being the case, describe what your character is doing more so than looking at your character sheet and trying to find an appropriate ability or skill to use. So it's down to the players to describe, but that gives them effectively no limits. If they can imagine something, and if it was reasonable for them to be able to do in that situation, then the Doomsayer is probably going to reward them for it. And in this instance, giving them the upper hand roll, which remember is you get the 3 dice and you hold on to the highest value from the 2 dice that you roll. Challenge in Best Left Buried. The thrill of success in Best Left Buried comes from overcoming challenging situations. Trivial challenges aren't fun. Simultaneously, deadly challenges aren't primarily for killing players, but a stage for showing off their skills and ingenuity. That's very true. That's very true. Puzzles, you want them to be a satisfying challenge, something for them to try and think their way out of. More so, again, than using just dice rolls. So I guess this is really just getting the Doomsayer into the mindset of what the game is trying to accomplish. Combat isn't balanced or fair. Enemies are real antagonists, doggedly pursuing their goals. To win, players should scrape together every single advantage to tilt the odds in their favour. Now, reading through this, it does very much sound as if that fighting is essentially a last resort. You don't want to be just throwing yourself in there, whereas some other games, the player characters are very much the hero and they are buffed up so that they can take on pretty much anything. This game is more realistic, and even the slightest jab of a sharp blade is going to do quite a lot of damage. It even suggests that you might want to roll up 3 characters and have them at the ready, just in case. But it doesn't mean that you should be foolhardy and just go on in blindly. You do want to try and keep your characters alive, but maybe you have to use a bit of imagination, a bit of cunning. Maybe you have to sneak past the little encampment of thieves as opposed to just charging on in blindly. Okay. Omens and Fear. Now, we did sort of touch on this a little bit last night, talking about the character's grip as they are losing their grip, becoming more and more terrified as maybe they encounter a large monster, and if they fail their grip roll, they will become more scared. But it does give them a little bit of a boost in experience. When you amass 8 experience points, you are able to then purchase an adaptation, a skill that you can then use going forward. So you do learn from your encounters. But I like this quote here. Where is it? Here we go. Stephen King wrote, "I recognize terror as the finest emotion, and so I will try to terrorize the reader. But if I find that I cannot terrify, I will try to horrify. And if I find that I cannot horrify, I'll go for the gross out." So terror is a feeling of dread, the anticipation preceding a horrifying experience. Beneath that is horror, revulsion usually following a frightening sight, sound, or other scary experience. The least elegant, the gross out, is an overstated display, something disgusting, repellent, or shocking, usually involving blood or ichor. Terror comes from the space between what is known and hidden. After all, what is more terrifying than the unknown? So, I like it. And of course, we have looked at some of the many books that are out there that can be used as supplements, guides to different genres. We did look at a book that dealt with the horror genre. So that would be a perfect accompaniment to this game to give you some ideas on how to develop the horror element and to throw things in and to ultimately to terrify your players, because that's what you're trying to go for, but in a fun way, of course. And just before we move on, dangerous traps, monsters, and other obstacles must be obvious. Never suddenly instantaneously kill a player without warning them or telegraphing it. To that end, large, lethal or terrible creatures, passages leave omens, scraps of fur or skin, huge footprints, mutilated monster or crypt digger corpses, distant screams, scrawled graffiti, trails of blood or ichor. Beyond mere set dressing, this demonstrates characters have entered the monster's territory. It also allows Cryptdiggers to pick up rumours. Perhaps someone in the company saw something while scouting. Maybe something nearly wiped out another wing of the company. So that's cool, yes. Omens, having clues that there is something in the dark. I like it. We get a little bit here about, as we discussed right at the beginning, safe spaces. So, Best Left Buried's primary operating principle is scared players roleplay scared characters best. Even so, it is important to establish boundaries. So it does suggest a session 0 where you can talk to your players, what monsters or experiences scare the players and they would like to see in game. I guess it's a little bit like roller coaster rides, isn't it? We kind of want to be scared, but it's in a controlled way, and we know that we're going to be okay, but we just want that little bit of a thrill. Yes, there are certain monsters or experiences that you most definitely do not want to see. And so having that communicated to the Doomsayer in advance of the actual game will mean that it's going to be fun for everybody involved. Because I suppose there's nothing worse than being in a game situation. The Doomsayer has spent their time and energy putting a game together, and you suddenly find that there is a large spider at the end of the tunnel, and there's a player that just does not like spiders at all. It's, you know, it's going to be bad for that player, it's going to be bad for the Doomsayer, because they can't really take it out. Everything's been constructed around that final monster encounter. So yes, having a session 0 probably avoids those type of situations. Okay, so we go on to the actual crypts, and this is now giving guidance as to actually creating your crypt. A crypt is an environment suited for adventuring with 4 essential elements. The crypt is dark. The crypt is full of threats. The crypt contains something Cryptdiggers desire. And the crypt is a horror trope outside civilization. Without reliable allies, social structure, or the force of law and order. But I found this was interesting because as it goes deeper into this, it talks about different kinds of crypts from films and literature. Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, The Lord of the Rings, Mines of Moria, Conan the Barbarian's Tower of the Elephant, Dracula's Bran Castle, and Lovecraft's Mythos Rylef. Is it Rylef? Yeah, I think it is, isn't it? So, yeah, there's many different kinds of crypts. Well, I actually thought initially of the temple where the Holy Grail is in the third Indiana Jones film. I thought that would be an interesting kind of crypt because it's not necessarily dark, but it's just very old with ancient traps, and I like the idea of that type of setting. What kind of crypt might you make, Roger? So there's lots of suggestions here for different kinds of published crypts or dungeons, and there are many packs, adventure packs, available on the Soul Muppet Publishing website. And so it starts going through, okay, well, let's build our crypt. Well, why is the crypt here? That's the first question. Who actually made this crypt? Because unless it's a naturally occurring cave network, someone's had to build it for a purpose. So it's important to know what that purpose was. Because we're kind of assuming that time has moved on and it's no longer used for maybe the purposes it originally was. So some examples: a ruined city slowly destroyed by moral decadence and lawlessness, an abandoned mine whose deep shafts breached a goblin hive, a lost temple where a beyonder was summoned, a fortress whose garrison fell to biological warfare, an abandoned burial ground whose groundskeepers were destroyed. So there's quite a few ideas there. Again, I'll go with my Indiana Jones one. Maybe it's a sacred place that has been lost to the ages, but it's rigged with traps, so only the most worthy might get to the end. We get a little bit of detail on filling out regions and rooms to give it some kind of progression and to make it realistic as to, well, why were these set up? So with the Indiana Jones idea, it is a set of trials, isn't it? With small corridors going from one trial to the next, trying to prevent potential tomb raiders from actually getting to the end, so that only the most worthy achieve it. So that is quite a simple kind of crypt idea, but then it suggests, okay, well, what your monsters and your factions within the crypt, why are they there? And giving you suggestions that don't throw everybody in, make it sensible. So maybe the crypt was originally what can we have? We can have a group of cultists, the ones who have put this ancient artifact, hidden it from the world, but as they were delving deeper, they did happen across a goblin hive. So we've got goblins now that actually are coming into part of the crypt. So we can see the actual the layout of the crypt itself will change. We will have the nicely crafted masonry where the cultists have actually made a nice passageways, which then break down into the roughly hewn tunnels and caves of the goblins, and you'll know when you're going from one section to the other. This, of course, then communicates to the players which sort of region they are in as they explore. This all helps with the narrative then, doesn't it? Stocking up rooms. So making sure that the rooms have items in that make sense, that it's not just a room. This room actually serves a purpose. So if there's a kitchen, well then you might need a pantry or a storage room next to it. Maybe there is a washroom. So, make things sensible. I guess this is all good advice when we do a little bit of designing our dungeons, and we've done that a little bit, haven't we? Where I was sketching out some dungeon plans. But this is good to basically get you thinking about how you might go and create your crypt. Stocking the room out. And here we go, spicing up your dungeon. So we've got a whole variety of different things that we might want to put on in to our dungeon. Creaking doors and roosting birds, thick smoke, overgrown piles of rubble. We don't have to have all of it. It's what makes sense and what helps to the story. I think the crypt itself should be part of the story. It should be a character. So, civilizations and wilderness. 3 types of RPG environments. Cities, the wilderness, and the dungeons, which are the crypts. So not all adventures take place in crypts. Sometimes adventurers return to cities to spend coin, relax, or seek employment. So that's interesting. So we don't necessarily have to be in a crypt. Maybe our adventure is taking place in the wilderness, where it is desolate, with badlands full of bandits and hidden treasures. Or maybe we're in the city, where it's a lawless hive of scum and villainy, with ample opportunities for intrigue and reward. So this is nice. The rules, even though we are very much talking about crypts, we actually can open that up. We can explore different areas. The rule set is, of course, very flexible in that regard. I thought this was interesting. This is talking about the trapdoor, and it's actually giving some examples from the designer during their initial playtest. And I really liked this sort of very open discussion as to some of the ideas that they had with their initial groups who were playing the game. Talking about creating different styles of traps. And does give some details on actually, creating your traps. So traps are like monsters. If it's lethal, it should be visible. To increase visibility, use sequential traps. A broken or compromised trap might foreshadow a functioning trap ahead. Dungeon graffiti might provide tips on locating traps. Okay, so this is definitely getting your party to actually be looking, and because they are experienced crypt diggers, they would be mindful of potential traps. They wouldn't just aimlessly be walking forward. But it is good, again, part of the narrative, to sort of just tease that, oh, okay, I can see there's a broken one here. That must mean there might be some functioning ones up ahead. We should be careful. and there we go. Yes, oh, a good old spike pit. Can't go wrong with a spike pit, can you, hey? We go on to rewards and treasure. Crypt digging is only worth doing it if it's rewarding. If there was nothing within, crypt diggers wouldn't enter. And so, talking about experience, we did talk a little bit about this when we took a look through the Cryptdiggers Guide to Survival. So, characters do not gain experience from killing monsters. Conflict in Best Left Buried should be avoided whenever possible. So, farming low-level creeps doesn't increase power levels. In fact, the murder of helpless, friendly or harmless crypt inhabitants is quite a stupid idea, potentially resulting in grip checks. So the main method of gaining experience is returning treasure to the camp. Cryptdiggers can also gain experience by seeing great sights and overcoming shocking challenges. So that's kind of cool. I like that. And as we described, I believe it's 8 points of experience, which will then give you the reward. And it will give you another adaptation. And I think it gives you a +1 to your grip and vigor as well. So, treasure is what drives most adventurers to delve into the crypt. We got a little bit of details here on calculating experience and then dividing it up within the party, making sure that everybody is happy because we do not want any disruptive behavior. Magical items. Monstrous and mortal. So monstrous treasures usually have disadvantages, a thematically appropriate affliction or drawback. Oh, that's interesting. For examples, afflictions, a bloodthirsty battle axe might give frothing rage. A pair of nimble boots might give silver fingers. And a flame-wreathed cloak might give glorious blaze. So those are the monstrous treasures, but what's the mortal? Mortal treasures are subtler items, typically made by apprentice wizards or artificers as experiments testing magical techniques. So mortal treasures are highly situational and lack monstrous treasures' overt power. They don't inflict drawbacks. Ah, so we got a bit of a list here. Ooh, let's take a look. Oh, we like a good list. What do we have? A deck of cards from which you always draw the desired card. A shoe that always fits. A red gem that turns into a glass of wine when crushed. So these are sort of magical trinkets, aren't they? A blood red coin that forever holds your focus. A heavy tooth that cuts through anything before breaking. And they do seem to be one use. Interesting. We then have other treasure. And this is referring to magical items, which will be in a later chapter. And coins. Coins are found in crypts, antiquated, difficult to exchange. Okay, so, yeah, it's not about the coins. It's all about the treasures. Read 19, says Roger. What did you see? A pocket watch that pauses time for a second. Oh, wow! Hey, that's a good one. Wow, but it's only 1 second. It's only 1 second. Not much you can do in that. I mean, that would take some serious timing, wouldn't it? To try and make that work for you. Okay, so we go on to the camp. Now, this is where the game is starting to expand outwards, because initially we're just talking about our little party of Cryptdiggers as we venture down into one of these crypts. But now we're starting to learn a little bit more about the lore and about the world in which we are playing. So we need to organize a wider crypt digging company. So companies often travel to the crypt, setting up a shared camp outside. Tools and rules for establishing the company are found in this chapter's second half. But most companies consists of 5 to 50 crypt diggers. So this is making me think of the kind of the archaeological expeditions. I'm going to say Egypt because that's the one I'm thinking of, where literally, you know, we would have hundreds of people all descending upon this one location. I guess these are a little bit more, or a little less unscrupulous in this instance. So yes, it's like a military squad. They are absolutely searching for treasure. There's no doubt about it, is there? There's a council, a company council, a guild master, a sage, a prophet, the recruiter, and the quartermaster. Wow, it's like a proper organization. So you do get to have this coin. We talked about you've got a D2, haven't you? Flipping the coin. Retirement from the company. Oh wow, and here we go. We got a little bit of an illustration here, haven't we? We can see all these tents all camped out, leading up to a cave in the mountain. So maybe they take it in turns, mapping these crypts. Going in a little bit of a time, mapping part of it. Base camp, and they all go out in different directions searching for treasure, says Rogi. Yeah, yes. So, that's it's definitely changed my sort of perspective a little bit as far as the kind of world that we are within. Good evening, Lhawk99. How are you? Thanks for joining. We are taking a look at Best Left Buried, a game from Soul Muppet Publishing. We're looking at the Doomsayer'S Guide to Horror. Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. So, role-playing in the camp. So we can actually continue. We have some downtime in the camp. This is maybe where we spend time resting. Maybe if we've seen something particularly terrifying, we can get over our fear of that. Bolster ourselves with a couple of good swigs of something suitably potent. And prepare for the next day. We have the council members. Orders. Parties are often dispatched into the crypt following a council member's specific order. Okay, what do we have? 2d6. Capture a monster, locate a nest, contact monster faction, destroy a monster, reach an area or room, find a treasure, scout an area, create a map, destroy resource, rescue a crypt digger, retrieve a special artifact. Oh, so that's interesting. So we can actually break up our little session into different parts. So it makes me think then that the crypt is much bigger than what I was initially imagining. So that's kind of cool. I like it. And then, of course, we have the opportunity of giving our company a name. Shall we find out what name our company's going to be? Yes, let's do that. Just going to get myself a couple of dice. Let's put those here. We are doing a 1d66. So we'll go black for the first digit, red for the second. Here we go. That's 61. We are the Bastard Order of the Crocodile. Yes, we are. That sounds suitably aggressive. I like it. Let's put them there. Okay. Oh, and there's more. Cryptdigger fashion. So, successful Cryptdiggers are extremely wealthy and their favourite expenditure is on outrageous fashion, demonstrating they're the best of the business. See, now this has completely changed my initial sort of mind's eye as far as what my character is going to be like. If you remember, I was having a character who was a bit of a down and out, but this, no, we're revered, we're prized members, we are doing something that others cannot. And I would imagine that we're going to be quite flamboyant about it. That's cool. I like it. Let's find out what we've got. Uh, 46. Unusual haircuts. What kind of haircut are we going to have? Are we going to have kind of spiked hair? Are we going to have maybe some sort of bowl cut? Completely shaven? What are we going for, guys? Pick a haircut. What's going to identify, what was it, the bastards, Bastard Order of the Crocodile? Do we have green hair? The crocodiles are green? Kind of, maybe? Olive looking? Okay, toolbox of rules. We have a section of additional rules that can be added to the game. These are all optional rule modifications. So, you know, we can use the rules from the player's guide just to get us started, just to get us into the flow of the game. As our players become a little bit more experienced, as the characters become more experienced, we can start dropping in some of these additional rules just to make things maybe a little harder. So we'll just skip through these. Well, there's a reasonable number there. So we are now getting to the part of the book which is building more of the lore. And this actually is a little mission for us to be able to do. In fact, what we have here is a bit of a hexcrawl. You can actually see a bit of a valley. There's a couple of ruined, well, we've got a mausoleum there. It looks like we've got a pyramid, we've got a temple. We can see a entrance into a mine. I guess I should point out, before we go too far on this, that if indeed, well, if you're a player, you shouldn't be watching this and learning all about the Doomsayer'S tips and tricks, but certainly you want to stop at this point. I'm giving it all away. Alright, so let's get an idea then of how a mission might be put together. So this is the Low Hills of Internment. So they broke the tomb with a crowbar, unearthing the corpse. Unnaturally tall and haggard with age, its silk wrappings almost faded from its flesh in the torchlight. It wore an ancient rusting metal crown, adorned with the spurred bones of some great beasts. They were so enamoured by its strange beauty, they failed to see the dead behind them. Nice, like it. So what have we got? What have we got? Well, first of all, we have a summary. We have 16 hexes here, and we have a quick summary of each of these locations. And we do actually have, so in the abandoned Ricelands, there is, oh gosh, here we go, Allogriffin of Boren. Boren? Let's go with Boren. Mood, it's a great beast. It's got an armour of 8, a vigour of 23. Brawn of 2, wit of 2, will of 0. It's acidic. Devours, picks ups and drops, flying, hulking, and razor clawed. So we can see a little bit then on how beasts are put together. And if I remember rightly, when we do our roll on our attack, if we're successful, we didn't it be a case of we rolled 3 dice. And we have to get a roll over the armour. And whatever dice is left, that is the amount of damage that we do against that monster. I think I'm right on that. So, over 8, and then we're knocking down those 23 points of vigour. That's quite a lot. What we'll do is we'll do some simulated combat tomorrow evening. I'll put together a character and let's see how they fare against a few beasties. So we got, as I say, many descriptions of the 16 different locations. And then it goes into more detail in the locations that actually have the crypts to explore. And so this is cool. So we can actually see we got ravines, tunnels, and halls, indicated by the R's, T's, and H's. Combat will be nice to see how it works. Yeah, let's do that tomorrow. Let's see if we can fell some beasts. We'll create ourselves a general character. Shall we go for a ranger type of character, Roger? Do you think that would be suitable? Or shall we go with somebody who does melee combat? Because I think we need somebody hard hitting to give us a bit of a chance. Well, this is interesting. We have some nicely laid out, chiseled out of the stone passageways here, typical sort of dungeon, and then we have our caverns. And it's kind of what we were creating on the channel, wasn't it? A ranger would be good, maybe a rogue. Okay, leave it with me. We'll have a character ready tomorrow. So we have little details then on each of the rooms as detailed. R1, R2, H1 and onwards. And our tunnels as well. So we just got little descriptions, giving us something to be aware of on each of these. And then we have level 2. And we have tables for random encounters and what treasures. And where is Mother? And there we go, we have a similar kind of map. And it's nice how we can actually see that this is drawn on dot paper. So this is something we can do. And in fact, again, regulars to the channel, we did at a time create our very own dungeon tiles, didn't we? For our miniatures. This is exactly the kind of crypt that our adventurers might have been going through. And again, little descriptions on each of those rooms. And then we do have a bit of a bestiary here. Various... Oh gosh. We got cat mummies. That's cool. The royal dead. Okay, that's cool. We then have the mausoleum. Beware the Bone Emperor. So again, it's the same, but it's different. Looks like there was a stream or river going through. Yes, it did, didn't it? I like this. That's cool. That's cool. So we got just one level to the mausoleum. That's very cool. Okay, and so this, now we basically get a lot more lore into the world. The 13 Duchies of Lendal. We do have a 2-page map, which is a little bit difficult to show. We have then the 13 major areas. And it gives us a quick summary on each of these with a little bit of an influence to give you an idea of what that area is actually like. And then it goes into a lot of detail onto each of these. So I am going to go for... we have Calmin, which has influences of London and Amsterdam. Once the home of an ancient royalty, now a financial powerhouse imposing its colonist will upon the rest of Lendal. Okay, so let's take a look. What we got here? We have various factions. We got the Great Banks of Calmin, the Order of Imperial Conduct, the Watts, the Calmin Consortium, the University of Harlingstad, the Valengard, oh gosh, the Gunzel Market, reckless youth with valid complaints, scorned by society for thinking beyond it, dark coats and bitter knives, they kill for change. Various rumours and hooks that players may encounter or hear, maybe when they are taking a pint in the tavern. D12 locations. Oh wow, okay. So the Tower of Kalimin, preservation of human achievement. It once held written works spanning the globe. The Order of Imperial Conduct ensures it serves only Kalmin's vanity. Okay, so you basically get 2 pages on each of these 16 regions. So again, lots of building the world out. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And that pretty much brings us to the end. I'm going to quickly go back. I like this area here. This is where I think this is going to be very, very helpful for new players. The low hills of Internment. Get an idea of how to put together your little adventure. Because, of course, this is all good for example, isn't it? To be able to realize your ideas. It did mention earlier on in the book that as much as you can go and purchase adventures, to actually create your own, you are going to, it's going to be, your knowledge of it is going to be so much more intimate, isn't it? You're going to know exactly the type of story that you want, or you can and want to be able to tell. When you're creating the actual dungeon itself, you know where all the tricks and traps are, and that's the fun of it. But of course, it always helps to have an example to be able to create your own from that. So I like this. I like this a lot. I'll be intrigued to actually see what other adventures, as I say, the Soul Muppet Publishing website, they do have a variety of individual adventures that can be purchased from there. So I'll be interested to see what some of those look like. Right. That pretty much brings us to the end. So, plan for tomorrow is that we will be taking a look at Best Left Buried, The Hunter's Guide to Monsters. This is the book for tomorrow evening. And yes, I will create up a suitable character, and we'll do some... we'll see how we do against some large beasties. Let's see what it'll be like. Of course, you guys know what my dice rolls are like, so do not have high expectations. You're going to have to manage it. Okay. You're welcome, Roger. Glad that you enjoyed. As I say, there is a link on the video description so that you can go and check out these books. You can purchase just the PDFs. They are very affordable. So maybe that's the best thing to do, to be able to get them quickly and easily. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching and joining in on the chat tonight. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we look through the last of the books. Have a great evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. But until then, bye for now.